The courtroom was silent. The air felt heavy, almost too thick to breathe. The kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it takes over the soul. Everyone there could feel it. The cameras stopped clicking, the whispers died down, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to pause. In that courtroom, truth was about to speak louder than any rumor ever could. Stormi stood still, her hands calm but her eyes locked forward. Across the room sat Marsau, his jaw tight, his confidence dimmed. And Letitia, the woman who had always stood by him, looked fragile, as though something deep inside her was about to shatter. No one could have prepared for what was coming next. What started as whispers in the shadows had now made its way into the bright, merciless light of a courtroom. This wasn't gossip anymore, it was evidence, it was confrontation, it was reality unfolding in real time. The moment Stormi's lawyer rose to speak, the room changed. The voice was steady, the tone sharp, and the words heavy with truth. What people didn't see, though, was everything that led to this moment: the sleepless nights, the doubts, the heartbreak, and the choice to finally fight back. Before the fame, before the headlines, before the cameras, Stormi was just a woman who believed in love, loyalty, and faith. She came from a family that taught her that life isn't always clean or pretty, but it can be real. She had seen people fall apart, argue, rebuild, and love again. That's where she learned what strength really meant, not in perfection, but in survival. When Marsau came into her life, he seemed like everything she had imagined. Charming, magnetic, confident, the kind of man who could walk into any room and make people turn their heads. He carried himself like someone in control, like someone who knew how to win people over. For a while, everything looked perfect. Their pictures showed happiness, their smiles looked effortless, and their chemistry was undeniable. Fans adored them. They called them the power couple, a mix of ambition, love, and influence. But behind the photos and posts, things were starting to break. The smiles began to fade when the cameras turned off. The tension grew in private, and the whispers became harder to ignore. Letitia, Marsau's partner, was another part of this complex web. She was focused, elegant, and determined to build her own empire. She and Stormi shared laughs, dreams, and respect, but they didn't know they were sharing something else: Marsau's deception. At first, Stormi didn't want to believe it. No one ever does. When someone you care for starts showing cracks in their truth, you hold on tighter. You tell yourself it's just a misunderstanding. You hope they'll come clean. You want to believe love is stronger than lies. But hope can only carry you so far before reality starts knocking. Late-night messages began to surface. Rumors started to spread. People whispered about meetings that shouldn't have happened, about things seen but not spoken aloud. And slowly, Stormi's world began to change. She pulled back from social media, her posts became shorter, her smile less frequent. Fans noticed. Something was wrong, but no one knew how deep it really went. The moment everything shifted was when Stormi found the one thing that changes everything: proof. Not hearsay, not rumor, but cold, undeniable proof. She had messages, timestamps, voice notes, and, most importantly, a DNA test that would turn everything upside down. She didn't act right away. She didn't lash out online. She waited. She gathered every piece she needed because she knew once she stepped forward, there would be no turning back. When the day of the court hearing arrived, the tension was unbearable. People lined up outside. Fans speculated online. Journalists crowded near the entrance. Everyone wanted to know what Stormi was about to reveal. Inside, Marsau's usual calmness was nowhere to be found. His posture was stiff, his eyes restless. Letitia, sitting nearby, looked poised on the outside, but her fingers trembled slightly against the table. When Stormi walked in, you could tell she was carrying more than papers and evidence. She was carrying pain, betrayal, and the determination to reclaim her voice. Her lawyer began speaking, and every word echoed through the courtroom. They laid out the messages first: screenshots of late-night texts where Marsau had begged Stormi to keep quiet. Voice notes of him pleading for secrecy. Words like, "This can't go public and let's keep this between us." But that was only the beginning. Then came the evidence that no one could argue with: the DNA results. The lawyer read them slowly, deliberately. 99.96% match. The number alone felt like thunder. The room gasped. You could feel the collective shock as if every heartbeat had stopped at once. Marsau froze. Letitia's eyes widened in disbelief. Then it happened. Letitia slammed her hand against the table, her voice breaking. This is impossible. This is a setup. Her words echoed off the courtroom walls. The shock, the rage, the heartbreak, it all poured out at once. She stood abruptly, her chair screeching against the floor, and stormed out of the courtroom. Cameras flashed as she passed, tears in her eyes, her pride shattered. The woman who had always kept her composure now walked out broken. Marsau tried to speak, but his voice trembled. I made mistakes, he said quietly. I never thought it would go this far. For Stormi, this victory wasn't sweet. It was painful. She had proven the truth, but in doing so, she had relived every wound. The betrayal, the manipulation, the loss of trust, all of it resurfaced in front of the world. The weight she carried wasn't just about exposing a man. It was about surviving the emotional wreckage that came with it. She had loved deeply, trusted blindly, and been betrayed publicly. That's a kind of pain that doesn't fade quickly. But even through the heartbreak, she stood tall. She didn't let the shame or the judgment define her. She let the truth do the talking. That's the difference between reaction and redemption. Marsau, on the other hand, was left with no defense. His reputation, once built on charm and intelligence, now looked hollow. His empire of influence began to crack. The same confidence that once drew people to him now seemed like arrogance turned into regret. For him, this wasn't just a personal loss, it was a public downfall. And Letitia, her heartbreak was visible even in her silence. She had stood by Marsau for years, defended him, believed in him. Now, that foundation had crumbled. To see the person you loved most betray you not only privately but publicly, that's a devastation words can't capture. Behind every headline, behind every viral clip, are real people with real emotions. Stormi's story is more than entertainment. It's a lesson about truth, image, and the price of silence. It shows that no matter how tightly secrets are hidden, they have a way of surfacing when the time is right. For the audience, this was more than drama. It was a reminder that not everything that glitters on television is gold. Behind the luxury, behind the smiles, there are cracks, tears, and pain that can't be filtered out. And sometimes, those hidden truths become the very thing that brings everything crashing down. Stormi's decision to take this to court wasn't just about exposing someone else's lies. It was about reclaiming her dignity. She wanted to prove that she wouldn't be silenced, that her truth mattered, even if it came at a cost. And in that courtroom, surrounded by cameras and judgment, she did exactly that. Her strength didn't come from winning. It came from standing firm when it would have been easier to walk away. It came from refusing to let fear decide her story. That's what makes her journey powerful, not the scandal, but the courage it took to face it head-on. Now, the aftermath continues to unfold. Fans wait for Letitia's next move. Will she speak publicly? Will she confront Marsau? Or will she choose silence to rebuild privately? Whatever she decides, the impact of that courtroom moment will linger. The image of her walking out, eyes filled with disbelief, will forever be remembered as the moment truth shattered illusion. And Marsau, he must now live with the consequences of his own actions. The truth has stripped him of the comfort of denial. His choices have cost him not just love, but his usual bravado was gone. For once, he wasn't the confident businessman or the clever speaker, he was just a man caught in the storm of his own making. Stormi didn't celebrate. She didn't gloat. She stood still, her face calm, but her eyes heavy with emotion. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. As the chaos unfolded, the courtroom filled with murmurs, journalists scribbling notes, flashes lighting up faces, and whispers spreading faster than wildfire. But amidst the noise, Stormi stayed composed. She knew the weight of what she had done. She had exposed not just a man's betrayal but the false image he had built in front of the world. Outside the courtroom, the story spread like fire. Social media erupted. Clips circulated showing Letitia walking out, her hand covering her face, trying to hold back tears. Memes appeared instantly, commentary poured in from all sides. But behind the entertainment value, there was real pain, people whose lives were now changed forever. Leaked messages soon followed. Late-night voice notes surfaced. Marsau's own words became his undoing. In one clip, he said, "I never meant for her to find out this way." In another, he begged, "Let's keep this private for the sake of the image." But it was too late. The truth was already public. Letitia disappeared from social media. Her business pages stayed up, but she went silent. Sources said she was consulting lawyers, trying to rebuild what had been destroyed. Her public image, her marriage, her brand, everything was now under threat. Some said she was considering legal action. Others claimed she was done, ready to walk away for good. Whatever the truth, it was clear that the fallout had just begun. What made this moment even more powerful was how carefully Stormi had planned it. She didn't rush. She didn't feed gossip. She waited until she had everything in her hands, the facts, the evidence, and the legal backing. She turned whispers into official records. She turned speculation into truth. That level of patience and control takes strength, the kind that comes from being deeply wounded but refusing to be silenced. For the fans, this changed everything. It made them question what they had believed for so long. The smiling faces on camera, the unity, the family image, all of it now looked like an illusion. People started watching old interviews again, noticing small things they had missed. The nervous glances, the awkward pauses, the body language that now seemed to tell a hidden story. The more people looked back, the clearer it became, the cracks had been there all along. But when you want to believe in a perfect image, you overlook the signs. Now, no one could ignore them. The truth had been spoken, and once it's out, it can't be taken back. Respect. The same spotlight that once celebrated him now exposes every flaw, every lie, every regret. As for Stormi, her journey isn't over. Healing doesn't come overnight. She's rebuilding her peace, her identity, her confidence. The road ahead will be long, but she's walking it with her head held high, no longer hiding behind anyone's shadow. This story isn't just about betrayal, it's about accountability. It's about the courage to stand alone when silence would have been easier. And it's about how truth, no matter how painful, always finds a way to be heard. When Stormi left that courtroom, she didn't look back. She didn't need to. She had faced the storm and walked through it. Her truth was out there for the world to see. And in that moment, she wasn't just a woman scorned, she was a woman freed. Because once you speak your truth, once you let the world see what's been hidden, no one can take that power away from you. And that's exactly what Stormi did. She turned her pain into power, her silence into strength, and her truth into a legacy that no rumor can erase.